hello to all of you. We're so glad you came our way. We hope our time with you will be a blessing and increase your understanding of the Bible. If you would like to donate and help grow this ministry, please check the options below. And folks, we will send you a free copy of our booklet, Training Your Children in the Way They Should Go. Thank you so much. And now let's enjoy some questions and answers from the Bible. Hello, folks. You're back, we're back. This is Dick and Nancy. How did you enjoy your reading ahead in Genesis this week? Anyway, we enjoyed it, and we have some questions for you. We're going to start with Genesis 15. And remember, throughout all your Bible reading and understanding, it's the truth that shall make you free. Right. That's why we hope to learn all that we can. So we're ready for chapter 15. Are you? Here we go. Question number 1. What did God say in his vision to Abram?
Well, he let Abram know that he was going to be his shield and his great reward.
Now, we read God and his message as we read the Bible. Wherever. Easy chair, straight chair, whatever chair. But Abraham was out here somewhere under those memorable trees, or out with the sheep somewhere, maybe in a tent, and God spoke to him. Spoke in a vision. Now that would have to be a different kind of an experience, wouldn't it? I'm sure impressive. But anyway, God promised him that he would always be a shield to Abraham. He would reward Abraham, and I guess you couldn't ask for anything better. And it was definite enough that Abram believed. Question number 2, what question did Abram have at this time?
Well, he says, how can you give me when I don't even have any kids?
Yeah, you know, going to make him like the sands of the sea, and I don't have number 1 yet. But that's the way it is, and God has his way. Number 3, did God promise Abram a child?
Yes.
He certainly did. Of course, we know that because we've read other verses. Number 4, what did God promise Abraham concerning his seed?
Well, he said he'd be the father as many as the stars in the sky.
Now, he said the sands of the sea too, and I think like dust, but you know, I'm sure Abraham did a lot of camping out, and maybe it was quite frequent. So any night that the campfires were burning and he would look up, he would be reminded of this promise. I guess we can do the same as we read the scriptures. Number 5, did Abram believe the Lord in regard to this?
Well, yeah. Yes, just like you did everything. He believed God.
He was a strong believer. When God told Abram that he would inherit this land, what was his question?
He said, well, how am I going to know?
How am I going to know? We humans always want to see something that gives us a clue, don't we? Number 7, what was God's reply?
Well, he told him to do something, and he said, take a heifer, a goat, and a ram, a turtle dove, and pigeon, and divide the animals.
Put them on a rock.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. What happened to Abraham when the sun went down that day?
He went to sleep.
He went to sleep. I think I would too if I had butchered all that. Oh my. Anyway, that was a spatial sleep. God spoke of what affliction in this that he talked with him about. Now, what spatial affliction would come?
Well, they would spend 400 years in Egypt.
Eventually, the children that weren't born yet, the seed, his offspring, would someday spend 400 years in Egypt. So I guess that gave Abraham a clue that this thing is a long-range program. And likely he wasn't going to be around when the fireworks set in. Just some of them. Did God promise deliverance from this affliction?
Yes.
Did God promise Abram to be an old man?
Yes.
Yes.
He'd have to be.
In order to get this taken care of, he was already old enough to be a grandpa, a great-grandpa with us. What was the boundaries as we come to the close of this chapter? What were the boundaries that God declared for the promised land?
From river to river, from Egypt to Euphrates.
Yes. Egypt, the river of Egypt, clear over to Euphrates. Did they ever conquer it? Yes, David did. So there doesn't have to be another time that somebody comes back and conquers this land for God, because it was conquered by David. An interesting thought back in chapter 15, verse 16, when it speaks about how the children of Israel would be slaves for 400 years and then they'd come out, and of course we know they went to the promised land. Verse 16 says, "But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again," that is, they'd come out of Egypt, "for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full." So this is interesting, because the Amorites were the people in the promised land that God was going to have his people exterminate. And they were going to come out on the fourth generation, whatever, and take them. And that was going to play out to be just right, because it says there, "For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet fulfilled." So sin is progressive. And those people, God was going to allow time to live, get right if they wanted to, but they didn't. And when their time got so bad, kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah, God was going to take them out. So when people say God is a terrible God, he gave them time. And this verse tells us of that. And he gives us our time too, so we need to think about that. How about, let's see, next chapter, I've got to get to my questions here, is going to be chapter 16. And question number 1, and this isn't a large chapter either, but question number 1, what was the name of Sarai's handmaid?
Hagar.
Hagar. Well, that's quite a name, but anyway, number 2, what did Sarah tell Abram to do?
She told her to go have a child with her.
Well, a woman like Sarah, she was the top lady, and she was the only one who could give permission for her slave to do such a thing, so she did. Did Abraham do it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Abraham was a man of faith, all right. But you know, he was human, just like we are. We think we're people of faith, and I believe we are a great deal. But you know, there's times that we want to push. We want to see something happen quicker, faster. So we get to fretting too, and Abraham evidently did. So he did this with Hagar, And question number 4, what was Sarai's reaction?
Oh, she despised her.
This is hard for me to understand, but I guess it's a natural. She said, do it. And when it was done, there was a despising. And you know, that attends a lot of sin. We can reason all in the world why it'd be all right to do something, and it just seems so good and so right, so wonderful, and we do it, and after it's done, it's bittersweet, isn't it? Yeah. Number 5, what did Abram tell Sarai to do about this?
Well, Abram just said, well, go do what you're going to do.
You're the madam lady, and this is your slave lady. You're in charge, you do. Next, what did Hagar do?
She ran away.
She ran away. I guess I wouldn't blame her. I imagine the air was electric, vibes were plenty. Where did the Lord find Hagar?
By the fountain in another town called Shur.
It was out there, way out there. Sure. Number 8, what did the angel of the Lord tell Hagar to do?
He says, go ahead and go back and do what she tells you.
Yeah, you know, that's the answer a lot of times. We get our ire up and we want to run away or fight big time. But the Bible is a peacemaking Bible. We're to be peacemakers with all, as much as in us is. Right? Yes. So go back home and do the right things. What was God's promise to Hagar?
Oh, he said, you'll have more babies, lots of them.
You'll be multiplied. It's kind of too bad. But you know, sometimes when we go against faith, the teachings of God's Word, there's consequences. And these consequences went on and on and on. So, a good lesson in itself, isn't it? What was to be the son's name of Hagar?
This son, the first son, was named Ishmael.
Ishmael. What kind of a man was he to be?
A wild one.
A wild man. And I think there's been a lot of wild people over there ever since. Don't you think? How old was Abram when Ishmael was born?
86 years old.
86 years old. That's exactly what I am right now. We enjoy our great-grandchildren. And we'll do our best by them. But do I dare say I'd just soon not have a brand new one right now? Anyway, that's the way it was to be for them. Now, we haven't taken much time here, so let's go into chapter 17 and see what we discover there. Good chapter. First question, how old was Abram when God told him to walk before him and to be a perfect man?
99.
99 years old. Now, I think he knew that and was that to a great degree, but it doesn't hurt for God and the Bible to remind us of that. Number 2, when God appears here to Abram at this time, what did he say he would do between Abram and himself?
He was going to make a covenant between him and Abram and multiply him exceedingly.
Yes. What was Abram's reaction?
He fell on his face.
I think I would do the same thing, don't you? I mean, when we read the Bible, we don't fall on our face. We respect it in every way that a human can. But in these types of experiences, as God spoke, I think we would react just like he did. What did God say to Abram? Abram would be?
That he would be the father of many nations.
Father of many nations. You know, I can understand Abram's feeling, I guess. A nation numbering like the stars of the sky, and yet look at his situation. A real struggle, and I'm sure it's a lesson for us. You have struggles, don't you? Number 5, to what name was Abram's changed?
Abraham. That's easier to say.
I'm glad we're there. Oh yes, it's been hard to say Abram all this time, and Sarai, and I'm sure we haven't done a good job of it, but anyway, here it is. What 3 things would be true of Abraham?
He would be fruitful, make nations of him, and kings would come out of him.
So that was the future. And I expect that puzzled him. How can all this be? Next question. Excuse me. How long was the covenant between Abraham and God to last?
Forever.
Forever. Now, I think we have to keep in mind a little bit, forever. Is that still today? Well, it's kind of true because we're the spiritual children of Abraham. But forever can also be as long as whatever is would serve its purpose. And this is stated several times. Number next, what promises did God make with Abraham and his generations to come?
Well, he gave them the land of Canaan, and he said, I will be your God.
Yes, land of Canaan. And that was quite a land. So how about next, how long were these promises to last too?
These were to last everlasting also.
They were just call them permanent. As long as they had a reason, they were going to last. Number 10, what was God's one requirement concerning this covenant?
They would have to keep the covenant.
They would have to keep it. Folks, that's been the number one thought throughout all time. God expects us to believe, and that's okay. He's our creator. But he expects us to obey too. Trust and obey, there's no other way. It isn't all faith. It isn't all do. It takes the two, both together. Number 11, what was to be done to every man-child?
They were to be circumcised.
They were to be circumcised. So this was something to happen pretty soon. What was the man-child, or when was the man-child to be circumcised?
On the 8th day.
8th day. But Abraham was more than 8 days old. That's for sure. Next, what 2 possible ways could a person be a Jew?
He could be born that way, or he could be bought with money.
Born or bought? You see, they were primarily born into the family. But we are too, in a sense. We're baptized into the family. It is a baptizing. It is an immersion, water surrounding. But it's a spiritual thing, isn't it? Were those that were bought by money to be circumcised also?
Yes.
Yes. No one got in the easy way. Next, what was the result if the man-child was not circumcised?
Well, he'd be cut out of the family because he had broken the covenant.
No part in the family. Question number, hey, it's 16. This is a longer chapter. Question 16. To what name was Abraham's wife changed to?
Sarah.
Sarah. And I'm glad this happened too. not Sarai. Next, how was God to bless Sarah?
She's going to let her have a son, a baby.
Going to have a boy child. Okay, God was in charge. Things were going to happen the way He wanted them. Next, was she to be the mother of nations too?
Yes.
Very definitely. Were kings to come out of her?
Sure.
Yes. Number 20 here. What was Abraham's reaction to these words from God? What did he do?
Well, he says she laughed.
He fell on his face and he laughed.
Oh, that's it. I got the wrong one, didn't I?
Yeah, we always talk about Sarah laughing. But in this verse, Abraham laughed. Did he have a right to laugh?
Yeah.
Oh my, oh me. I don't know if I'd laugh. I don't know what I'd do. Maybe I'd cry. What would you do? Anyway, we better get to the next question. What did Abraham say in his heart?
Well, he questioned that pretty good. He said, shall a child be born to him that's 100 and a wife who's 90?
The two of them.
That was amazing.
190 years between the two of them, and we're going to have our first kid. Okay. Now, it's easy for us to kind of smile and have a talk over this. But you know, this was meaningful to them. This was big time to them. And they had a lot of wonderments, and I don't doubt but what they had a right to. We have a lot of wonderments, and we think we have a right to, but just hang on. God's in charge. He's going to help make the right things happen. Well, next question. Did Abraham think God was referring to Ishmael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his own human thinking.
I guess that's a natural. What was God's remark to this?
He said, hey, bud, your wife's going to bear a son.
Still couldn't hardly believe it. You know, there's a lot of things that's hard for people to believe. I find it's very difficult for people to believe that baptism is for the forgiveness of sins. They think it's important, but not necessary. And why would God require something that absolutely everyone might not know to do it? Well, just think of this story. God expected Abraham and Sarah to trust and obey, and it would come out God's way. Same thing's true with baptism. Same thing's true with tithing. Same thing's true with faithfulness. Same thing's true with prayer. And how many more things? The golden rule. All those 10 commandments. My goodness. Yes. Anyway, question number 24. Was God to establish his covenant with Isaac?
Yes.
Yes. It was Isaac, not Ishmael. Don't accept sprinkling. It's dipping. Baptized in the Greek means that. Don't fool around with God. What did God say in reference to Ishmael?
Well, she's going to make him fruitful and multiply him too and make a great nation.
Well, when you think of some of the results of that, You wonder, but God's still in charge. How long did it take Abraham to start circumcising his household?
That same day.
That same day. Oh, can't we wait? This is going to hurt. And you know, a lot of things that God asks us to do, it is going to hurt. But in the long run, we will hurt if we don't. Good thought. How old was Abraham when he was circumcised?
99.
That's a long ways from 8 days. They tell us that 8 days is the best time. The blood does its thing the best. 8 days, the child hardly knows it. But 99? Oh boy. How old was Ishmael when he was circumcised?
13.
And hurt too. We're all in the household circumcised.
Yes.
Certainly was. That looks to me like that's the last question in that chapter. What do you know?
I bet they were all crying that night.
I know I would. So folks, we've had another good time. A lot of questions. Read ahead for next week and enjoy your reading. And if you want to go back and go through some of this again, I guess you're the winner for it. So we'll see you next time. And always keep in mind, for sure, that when you know the truth will make you free. And listen, the more you learn the truth, why don't you tell someone else? Right? Good.